Hi, welcome to this edition of Paulding County Today. I'm your host, Jody Martin, and today we'll be visiting Magistrate Court. You may have heard it called Civil Court, the People's Court, or Small Claims Court. It's located in the Watson Government Complex in the Justice Center. The Justice Center is the one with the big white columns in front. And remember, when you enter this building, you have to go through security. So let's get started and meet the judge.
Welcome to Paulding County Magistrate Court. This is the clerk's office. This is where you'll come to start your cases, whether you want to file a statement of claim, a dispossessory action, a personal property foreclosure, or if you want to file an answer to any of those, this is where you come. And we have actually someone that's coming in now to ask some questions about a wedding, I think. My name is Martin Enrique Valbuena, and I'm the Chief Magistrate Judge for Paulding County. I'm an elected official, and my term of election is every 4 years. I'm the Chief Magistrate, and I run for election. There are also 2 additional full-time magistrates that are on staff here also. They help me with court here, civil and criminal, and also with signing arrest warrants and dealing with search warrants out at the jail and the sheriff's office. Here in court, in this courtroom, we have civil court every Tuesday. And civil court consists of 2 types of actions primarily. The first is civil suits that are less than $15,000. It's often called the small claims or the people's court here because we handle those smaller matters of less than $15,000, and the rules of procedure and evidence are relaxed so that you don't have to have an attorney if you don't want to. The majority of our cases, the people represent themselves and do not have attorneys here in magistrate court. We also handle on every Tuesday, landlord-tenant matters. Any issue that arises from a landlord filing a suit to dispossess a tenant or a tenant filing an action to bring a claim against the landlord comes here to magistrate court also, and we handle those on Tuesdays. Some other types of civil jurisdiction that we handle are personal property foreclosures and garnishments. Those are filed in the clerk's office like you saw earlier, and most of the time those do not have the need for a hearing, but oftentimes will just be processed on the paperwork alone. Dispossessory action is an eviction proceeding. It's the fancy term for an eviction. It's when a landlord wants to bring an action against his or her tenant to evict the tenant because either the tenant has not paid the rent or has broken some term of the lease between the landlord and tenant, or the lease is up, the tenant hasn't moved out, and the landlord wants to evict the tenant. We also handle evictions after foreclosures. If a bank or a mortgage company has foreclosed on the homeowner and the homeowner has not moved out, we also handle that type of dispossessory action also. The majority of those are filed because the tenant has not been able to pay the rent and the landlord is asking that the tenant be evicted. Personal property foreclosures are an action that can be filed when someone has rented a piece of property to a person and the person has not paid the monthly rental payment, and then the person that owns the property wants to recover the property, not the money that's owed, but the personal property. So a furniture rental company that has rented furniture to someone who the person has not paid the monthly fee for the furniture rental company will file the personal property foreclosure in order to get the furniture back so that they can have it and rent it to someone else. Garnishment actions are filed by a judgment creditor, someone who has already brought a lawsuit and received a judgment against a debtor, then has a judgment, which is really just a piece of paper that says person A owes person B some amount of money. If a judgment creditor has obtained a judgment against the debtor and it's less than $15,000 and they know where the person works or where they bank, they can file a garnishment action here in Paulding County if the bank or the employer is here in Paulding County. They then seek to garnish the debtor's wages or garnish the debtor's bank accounts to get money to cover the judgment that they received previously. After you come into the clerk's office and file your lawsuit, then what will happen is the paperwork will be processed in our clerk's office and go to the sheriff's department to be served. When the defendant in a landlord-tenant action or the defendant in a small claims case is served, the defendant has a set amount of time to file an answer. If the defendant does not file an answer within the time that the law allows, the case goes into what's called default. If the case goes into default and the defendant doesn't file anything out of default, then the plaintiff can request what's called a default judgment, which means that they are asking that the court either grant them a judgment without them having to come to court, or they come to court to present their side of the damages part of the case to the judge. And we'll do a lot of those on just the paperwork that has been filed. If it's a liquidated damages amount, that means it's just a set amount that's being asked for. Or we'll have a hearing if the plaintiff needs to prove what their damages are and it's not clear what those damages are just from the paperwork. I've told you about some of the things that Magistrate Court handles. There are two things that Magistrate Court does not handle, and there's a misconception at times that those cases should be brought here in Magistrate Court, but we do not handle those. The first one is TPOs, or temporary protective orders. Sometimes people refer to them as temporary restraining orders or restraining orders. Those must be dealt with in Superior Court. Magistrate Court doesn't have any jurisdiction to deal with those at all, and they'll need to be filed in Superior Court. Likewise, Magistrate Court doesn't have any jurisdiction to determine whether a foreclosure has been done properly or improperly. A wrongful foreclosure case also has to be brought in Superior Court, and we don't have jurisdiction to determine the ownership of the house or the ownership of an apartment or building. All we can determine is whether or not the landlord is able to evict the tenant or the tenant is able to recover damages against the landlord. The question of who owns the property and whether the foreclosure has been done properly would need to be handled in Superior Court. In Magistrate Court for criminal jurisdiction, we handle several different things. We are the judges that police officers and law enforcement officers come to when they would like to have an arrest warrant signed or a search warrant signed. We are also the court where citizens who would like to have an arrest warrant issued come and seek to have an arrest warrant issued. We handle the first appearance hearings, the bond hearings, and the preliminary hearings for the overwhelming majority of criminal cases that are filed here in Paulding County. There are some limited, most serious crimes that are only handled by a Superior Court judge, but otherwise we handle the majority of the crimes that are brought, the charges that are brought here in Paulding County, here in Magistrate Court for those issues. Earlier we discussed how a criminal case gets started with a warrant application or an officer seeking a warrant, and the first appearance hearing that occurs while the defendant is still incarcerated. After that, at approximately 4 to 6 weeks, if a defendant has not bonded out of jail yet, his or her attorney may file what's called a request for a preliminary hearing. A preliminary hearing is a hearing where the state is required to come to court and show that there is probable cause to believe a crime has been committed and the defendant is the person that has committed the crime. It's an early stage of the process to make sure that the case needs to proceed on and that there is sufficient proof to believe that a crime has been committed so that the person in jail is being held lawfully and reasonably. That is not a determination of whether or not the person is ultimately guilty. That'll happen in Superior Court here in Paulding County when they have their trial. But it's just to make sure that someone's not being held wrongfully or unlawfully. We are also the court that tries cases for county ordinance violations and bad check, misdemeanor bad check. A misdemeanor bad check is a check that is written that is not honored, or if it's written on a closed account in the amount of under $500. County ordinance violations deal with the rules that the county has set up, the ordinances and statutes that the county commission has set up that we must live by here in Paulding County. The majority of those that we see here in Magistrate Court deal with junk vehicles, litter violations, ordinance violations regarding whether or not someone's operating a business without proper authority, unauthorized land use, and also animal control citations that deal with the handling of animals throughout the county, leash law, rabies, and other issues that deal with both your pets and agricultural animals that are here in Paulding County. We also, like I explained earlier, handle first appearance hearings and bond hearings. Most of those we do on Wednesdays and Fridays by closed circuit television over at the jail to save money so that the sheriff doesn't have to bring all the prisoners here to the courthouse every day on Wednesdays and Fridays and take them back. It's also better for security reasons. On Mondays, there's usually a higher number of first appearance hearings, and we do have a judge that does those at the jail. So what we do is, with our system, we can call the jail by indicating that we want to make a video call, and then we make the call. The jail has their end up set up perfectly. Also, when it's connected, then you can see, we'll be able to see the people that are in the room at the jail, the defendants, and then they can see on their side what we have here. We don't have any hearings scheduled today, but you can see where the deputy is sitting is normally where the defendant would sit, and the defendant then can talk to the judge and explain his or her side of the case and what they would like with respect to if they have any questions with respect to what Judge Beatty is explaining to them. Judge Beatty handles those on Wednesdays and Fridays, and she's here and she'll explain to you how that process works.
I'm Lisa Beatty, and I'm a magistrate judge for Paulding County. This is the room where I hold first appearance hearings. As I sit at the desk, the inmates are on a television conferencing machine. I usually have a deputy that sits here to the right of me that assists me with the files. And we have someone from the pretrial release program that sits at the table here. When a person is arrested and incarcerated in the jail, they are entitled to a first appearance hearing. We bring them before a magistrate judge within a 48-hour period of their arrest. At that point, I would inform them of what they're charged with and what their rights are by law. And we also discuss bond issues. Sometimes the bond is denied if the person is deemed a flight risk or a risk to reoffend or a threat to the community. If bond is set, there may be some written bond conditions given at this point as well. If the person cannot make the bond, they may be referred to the pretrial release program, or a motion may be filed for a preliminary hearing. If a person has been a victim of a crime, typically what happens first, they would contact law enforcement, make a police report. If for some reason law enforcement does not make an arrest, the citizen has a right to ask for a pre-warrant application hearing. Notice would be sent to the opposing party that they are asking for an arrest warrant to issue. They would give notice and have a chance to appear in court to present their side as well. The burden of proof is on the applicant. The accused has the right to remain silent. After hearing evidence and testimony, then a judge would determine whether there's probable cause that a crime's been committed and that a warrant should issue from that hearing.
Sometimes when law enforcement is investigating a crime, they make a determination that they'd like to have a search warrant. Magistrate judges also issue search warrants. Law enforcement might often do that in case they want to further their investigation before they arrest someone, or if they've already arrested someone, they may do that for the purpose of gathering evidence against the person they believe committed the crime. We make a determination whether a probable cause exists for the search warrant, and then we would issue the warrant and allow law enforcement to then search a person's home or car. Here in Paulding County Magistrate Court, we have one large courtroom and two smaller hearing rooms. In the other hearing room, we handle the first appearance hearings where the closed circuit television is that Judge Beatty explained earlier. In this hearing room, we handle civil cases and we also handle preliminary hearings. We record the preliminary hearings with our digital sound system, both in this courtroom and the large courtroom. We are not a court of record, which means that we don't have a court reporter that takes everything down, which is why we use the recording system. The recording system takes everything down so that the attorneys can then listen to it for purposes of the preliminary hearings. In a civil hearing, if an attorney or a party would like to have the matter taken down by a court reporter, they would pay for the court reporter and make those arrangements on their own.
Magistrate judges perform wedding ceremonies. We do that in the office on Mondays and Fridays, 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock. If you would like to be married by a magistrate judge, you can give our office a call and set up an appointment for those days. There's no fee if you are married during office hours. If you'd like to get married on the weekend or during the after hours, you can also check the website for our number and for our fees. If you would like to be married at the Magistrate Court, you'll need to bring your marriage license, and that's obtained through the probate court.
Another option to start a lawsuit, instead of coming into the clerk's office, you can go to our website and file online. Several years ago, we started the process of being able to file online because we saw a need for that. A company by the name of Court approached me and asked if we could be one of the first courts here in Georgia to allow online filing. And we agreed to do so because we thought it would be beneficial to the citizens of Paulding County. They provided us the website, and so you'll connect to it through the Paulding County official website to the Magistrate Court page, and from there to the Court website where you can file online. The process there is fairly straightforward and user-friendly and walks you through the simple filing process to be able to file a small claims case or a landlord-tenant dispossessory action. You can also go online and file your answers there. There's no charge to the county or to the Magistrate Court for that service. The person that uses the service pays Court directly their user fee. Let me show you. For example, you would come to the Paulding County government website, the official government website, and go to departments. Go to departments J through Z and click on Magistrate Court. There'll be a tab there for e-file. If you click on that e-file tab, it brings you to a page where you're allowed to click on another link that'll take you to the in-court website. At that point, it comes up the Paulding County Magistrate Court page where you'd be able to file your action. Once you're done there and provide your credit card information, the lawsuit will be filed and emailed to us here in Magistrate Court. We'll print it out and open your file, and the case will move forward from there. You would not have to come to court to file your action. In fact, you would only have to come to court if there would be a hearing scheduled in the future. We hope you've learned some useful information about Paulding County Magistrate Court today, and if you need our services in the future, we look forward to helping you here at Paulding County Magistrate Court.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Paulding County Today and that you better understand what Magistrate Court is all about. I'm Jody Martin, and we'll see you next time.